The SBS question corner for volume 96 of One Piece has finally been fully translated by Arta over at thelibraryofOhara.com. If you don't know what the SBS question corner is, it's basically a segment from every volume where Oda answers his fans' questions. SBS stands for Shitsumun o Boshusuru, which translates to I'm taking questions. The SBS is to be taken as canon facts, as Oda does frequently reveal big things and provide a lot of information pertaining to the story. In the SBSs in the past, we have found out the Straw Hats' ages, heights, birthdays, the origins of some characters' names, some characters' favourite foods, and so forth. In the same way that data books and Vivre cards are canon, the SBSs are canon. If you want to see this SBS and some other SBSs fully translated and read them for yourself, the link to thelibraryofOhara.com and just all of Arta's translations will be in the description below, and big props to him for providing this fantastic service to the One Piece community. He not only translates the SBSs, but he also translates Vivre cards and data books and magazines that Oda releases. He also has this series called Chapter Secrets where he analyzes every single little thing in a One Piece chapter, and those are always enjoyable to read, so please check him out. In this specific SBS, we got quite a lot from Oda. We got more than usual. There are some comedic questions and answers that I won't be discussing because they're obviously just jokes, and they don't quite matter in terms of providing information. I'm going to try and only address the information that is actually pertaining to One Piece. The first question in the SBS is just a joke between the reader and Oda, which is why I won't really be talking about it because there really is no need. You can pause the video if you want and read it for yourself on the screen right now. The second question in the SBS was somebody asking why doesn't Luffy give his crewmates nicknames. He called Shirahoshi Crybaby, Pekoms Pekomamushi, Hancock Hammock, Cavendish Cabbage, and so forth, but why doesn't he do the same for his crewmates, for his nakama? Oda answered this by saying Luffy's the type of person who doesn't bother with names. He doesn't really care. He gives people nicknames based on his impression of them, and that's what he's gonna call them whether they like it or not. The reason this isn't the case with his crewmates is because when they actually join the crew as his subordinate, he makes sure he pays mind to what their name actually is. He tries to learn it, and he tries to remember it. That's really all there is to it. Luffy is a very forward individual who isn't really bothered with names, but he's obviously going to take the time to learn the names of the people he's going to call his nakama and actually live with. The third question, much like the first question, is also obviously just a joke, but I'm going to address it since it's kind of funny, and it's about the people with the will of D. The reader asked, I've heard that the D stands for deformed belly button, is that true? And Oda said yes, it indeed is true. So it turns out Luffy, Law, Blackbeard, Dragon, Garp, Roger, Zebek, Ace, Rouge, and Saul all have a D in their names because their belly buttons are deformed. Interesting. The fourth question is actually a request from the reader, and he basically says, considering National Oden Day is the 22nd of February, how about we make that Oden's birthday? To which Oda replies, that is perfectly fine, from this day onwards, that will be Kozuki Oden's birthday. What's super crazy about this is that the 22nd of February is the day chapter 972 released, and that's the same chapter that Oden died in. Not to mention Jinbei's return in 976 was released on his birthday too. These are most likely just coincidences, but it's super cool to see how these things connect. The fifth question was asking why Nami loves Mikan so much. She loves all fruit, but why does she love Mikan particularly, and could she have an emotional attachment to Mikan? Anybody who has read Arlong Park and has seen Nami's flashback would know that she grew up on a Mikan farm, so there's obviously an emotional attachment. Oda describes Nami's love for Mikan as something that reminds her of her late mother, Bellemere. This is a question we kind of already had the answer to if you just read Arlong Park and were familiar with Nami's backstory, but a lot of One Piece fans in Japan are super young children or just very casual fans who aren't fully familiar with all the 976 chapters of information that Oda has released. Which is perfectly fine because at the end of the day it's perfectly understandable that some people forget these things because One Piece is an enormous story. The sixth and seventh questions are just jokes between Oda and his readers, which is perfectly fine, but we're going to move on to the eighth question, which is regarding Kiku, and they basically asked where she bathes considering she's the only female among the 9 red scabbards. Oda answered by saying she does bathe together with everyone else because ever since she was a child, she has always been very social. Now, if you're a Western fan and you're reading this, you'll probably think it's pretty weird for a girl to bathe with 8 men at once, but in Japanese culture, it isn't uncommon to bathe with relatives or close friends, and the Scabbards are like a family. You have to also keep in mind that Wano is supposed to resemble feudal Japan, not current day Japan, but Japan hundreds of years ago. Arta has his own input and explains why the question was even asked, and he does quite a good job, so if you want to pause you can see that on the screen right now. The next question is probably the second biggest in terms of providing information in the entire SBS, and it's a question regarding the Shimotsuki family and their very apparent connection to the Shimotsuki village in the East Blue. Oda replies with a timeline of events where he confirms that Kozaburo, the swordsmith who forged Enma and Wado Ichimonji, is in fact the father of Koshiro, Zoro's master. He also says this could be connected to Zoro's lineage somehow. I have made an entire video addressing this specific question though, so I'm not gonna sit down and delve too deep into breaking it down. I'll put the link in the description to that video and I highly suggest you check it out, especially if you're particularly interested. This next question though, this is the biggest one. This is a huge question and answer. The reader shows a panel of one of the Roger pirates in the Oden flashback and asks, "Who is this young man, Oda? Please tell me his name." Oda takes this question and goes crazy with it. Oda replies to the question with, "Sure, the young man who was a part of the Roger pirates, right?" I get tons of questions regarding the Roger pirates, and while I only have rough sketches for the most important members of the crew, allow me to showcase them. You don't have to remember these if you don't want to. Then Oda goes on to giving us rough sketches of 28 different individuals who were a part of the Roger pirates. I always assumed they were a tiny crew, like the Straw Hat Pirates, but it turns out the crew was quite large in size. It wasn't massive, but it was, it was moderately large. Going over all of these individuals would kill me because it would just take so long, but as I said earlier, the link to this SBS translation is in the description, the link to the libraryofahara.com, and the way he typesets it is wonderful to read and very easy to understand, so please check that out. I'll quickly say though, outside of Roger, Rayleigh, Scopagaban, Crocus, Shanks and Buggy, we were introduced to 22 new guys, and they were actually all in the Oden flashback, or most of them were in the Oden flashback. We just didn't get any names for them, and they didn't really matter, they were just around in the flashback in the back of some panels. In fact, I'm sure we're never going to see these guys ever again in One Piece, because Oda explicitly says you don't have to remember these guys if you don't want to. I don't think Oda would say that if he had plans for these guys in the future. Who knows though, he might bring them back, because some of these designs are pretty cool. Most of them are goofy classic Oda designs for the most part, but Spencer and Langram, I think his name is, they look pretty dope. I hope we get to see Spencer in the future, man. Oda, give us some Spencer. He looks dope. Moving on to the next question, the 11th question of the SBS, and the reader here basically asks if Shinobu is modelled after Jane. Oda replies by saying yes, but that kind of happened accidentally. Oda initially based Shinobu's appearance on that of a Japanese comedian by the name of Naomi Watanabe. However, over time she started to look like Jane, a character from Masaya Tokuhiro's manga Jungle King Tar-chan. That manga was a parody of Tarzan. The whole concept around Shinobu is that she used to be very pretty in her youth, but then she became less pretty over time. That's why she strongly resembles the character of Jane, who was also pretty in her youth but became less pretty over time. The 12th question asks what type of fishman is Kawamatsu. Oda replies by saying Kawamatsu is a tiger pufferfish fishman, which explains his design really well. However, Oda does say that Kawamatsu doesn't want to be called a fishman and he insists on being called a kappa, so please do so. Question 13 is a request Oda has been getting for the last few SBS's, and it is an anthropomorphism of Brook's sword Soul Solid. He's been getting these anthropomorphism questions for quite a while now, for like the last few SBS's. He's done it with Zoro's swords, and he even done it with Mihawk's blade Yoru. And the request was that he makes Brook's sword a female, and this is how it looks. Not too shabby, eh? Question 14 asked for Kyoshiro's height and favourite food, and Oda responds by giving us a shit ton of information about Oden and the 9 red scabbards, including the traitor Kanjuro, but obviously the chapters in volume 96 do not cover Kanjuro's betrayal yet, so Oda is obviously going to include Kanjuro with the other scabbards for this SBS. He also included Izo and Shinobu because why not? We will go through the favourite foods first, very quickly, and then the heights, because again, thanks to Arta, there is a height chart that he put together that makes it a lot simpler to go through. Oden's favourite food is all types of Oden. If you don't know what Oden is, I'll put a picture on the screen for you to see now. Oden is basically like a stew of processed fish cakes, boiled eggs, and lots of other ingredients with a light soy flavoured broth. It is a very common food in Japan. Kinyemon's favourite food is daikon, which is a type of radish. Kanjuro's favourite food is cabbage roll, and this makes sense considering that's the first thing we ever saw him eat. Raizo's favourite food is gobomaki, which is apparently a flank steak wrapped burdock root. I am definitely not going to sit and act like I know what that is, but there's a picture on the screen if you want to see how it looks. Denjiro's favourite food is beef tendon, finally something I know. Kikunojo's favourite food is shirataki, which is a type of noodles. Kawamatsu's favourite food is eggs, which is cool I guess, his farts must stink. Inuarashi likes bones, which is obvious considering he's a dog, or a dog mink, but he also loves chicken wings, which I love too. I always knew me and Inuarashi were homies. Nekomamushi loves lasagna and kamaboko. Lasagna is an Italian dish which, unless you're living under a rock, I am sure you have heard of before, and kamaboko is a type of processed seafood product, which looks quite interesting I must say. Ashura Doji's favourite food is kinchaku mochi, so Ashura Doji would probably get along with katakuri really well. Shinobu's favourite food is hanpen, which is like a meat or fish paste kind of product. And lastly, Izo's favourite food is ganmodoki, which is a fried tofu fritter with vegetables, carrots and so forth. Something common with all of these foods is that they all tend to be ingredients that are commonly put in Oden, which is kind of beautiful and makes a lot of sense because these 9 red scabbards are Oden's subordinates and they all idolize Oden. That's it for the food though. As far as height goes, here is a chart. Oden was 3.82 meters, making him like 60% of Whitebeard's height. Kinemon is 2.95 meters and Kanjuro is 3.47 meters, but these were already revealed in the Vivre cards, so these aren't new reveals. Raizo is 3.11 meters, probably because of his massive head. Denjiro is 3.06 meters, Kikunojo is 2.87 meters, Kawamatsu is 2.71 meters, Inuarashi is 5.11 meters and Nekomamushi is 5.22 meters, which is actually a retcon. Their heights were initially revealed to be around the 3 meter mark in the Vivre cards, but I'm going to go with this height because it makes the most sense. I'm sure they're far taller than Kinemon and Kanjuro unless my memory has failed me. As far as SBS's novels, data books, manga, all of these canon information, just go with the most recent stuff because a lot of stuff will inevitably get retconned because there's just so much stuff to One Piece as a world. Ashura Doji is 5.44 meters, which makes him the tallest of all of the Scabbards. Shinobu is 1.80 meters, which means she is 6 centimeters taller than Luffy. And lastly, Izo is 1.92 meters. Finally, we have reached the last question, which is yet another request for Oda to draw something, and it is a request to see Oda draw a skinny queen. And I wish I could erase this image from my mind. That is it for volume 96's SBS question corner. Again, big thank you to Arta over at thelibraryofahara.com for translating these and typesetting it in such an easily understandable way that allowed me to make this kind of video. The link to his website will be in the description, and if you like what he does, consider supporting him over at his Patreon since he does a fantastic service for the One Piece community absolutely free of charge. I am definitely looking forward to volume 97's SBS and hopefully it's just as exciting. Drop your comments below regarding this information Oda has revealed. Did you enjoy the SBS? Let me know. As always, let me know what would you like to see me make next. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe for more One Piece content. I have been Fiji. Peace.